Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to Crime Zone.
Authorities in Arlington, Virginia say that a 25-year-old local woman is facing multiple charges this week after she flipped her car while allegedly attempting to flee the scene of a DUI crash, then attacked officers after being taken to hospital. The whole thing started shortly before 10 p.m. on February 22nd, when the suspect, later identified as 25-year-old Militia Bruner, was driving down Washington Boulevard near 3rd Street North. According to witnesses, she hit a parked car that was occupied, then attempted to flee the scene. She only made it a short distance, though, before hitting a second vehicle at a high rate of speed, causing her vehicle to flip over. When officers arrived at the scene, they discovered that Bruner had no driver's license, and her behavior caused them to suspect she was also driving under the influence. She was arrested, though apparently proved to be just as much of a handful once in custody. After arriving at a local hospital for an evaluation after the crashes, Bruner allegedly grabbed the handle of an officer's firearm and had to be restrained. She also reportedly bit another officer on her way to that evaluation. At the time of this recording, the 25-year-old is facing a number of charges, including assault on police, disarming a police officer, driving under the influence, hit and run, and no driver's license. Thankfully, it appears no one was hurt during the dangerous incident.
Representatives with Louisiana's Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office say that a dangerous accused killer is back in custody this week, days after he allegedly assaulted a police officer and managed to escape by taking advantage of lax security during a prison transport. According to reports, the whole thing started sometime on February 25th, when officials at the Jefferson Parish Jail were alerted about a potential medical situation. An inmate, 51-year-old Leon Ruffin Jr., fell to the floor and hit his head after appearing to suffer a seizure. After it was determined by jail medical staff that Ruffin should be sent for outside examination, the 51-year-old was taken to the nearby Oxnard Medical Center. Doctors weren't able to conclusively figure out what had happened. However, Ruffin was given an orthopedic boot and an arm sling to wear, presumably due to injuries he suffered during the fall. However, police say that the true nature of what was going on was about to be revealed. While on the way back to the jail, Ruffin apparently began to cause a disturbance in the back seat of the patrol vehicle he was in that caused the deputy who was driving him to worry about his safety. She went to check on him, at which point the 51-year-old allegedly pepper sprayed her in the face, taking advantage of the resulting chaos to make his way into the driver's seat. He then drove off, leaving the deputy at the side of the road. She fired 3 shots, but they missed Ruffin as he drove away. A manhunt was launched for the escaped inmate, one that lasted for 2 days until police found him hiding at the Trident Inn Hotel in New Orleans. He was taken into custody there at around 2:30 p.m. on February 27th, with authorities now saying he was holed up there basically the entire time he was on the run. Police went on to say that they suspect Ruffin orchestrated the entire situation with the medical emergency in the first place to try and escape. They no longer believe that he had a seizure. Rather, they allege that he did this so that he would not have to wear shackles or handcuffs during transport. As for how the 51-year-old managed to get his hands on pepper spray, that currently remains a mystery. According to reports, at the time of his escape, Ruffin was being held on charges of second-degree murder, aggravated assault with a weapon, and felon in possession of a firearm following the killing of 53-year-old Gannon Johnson last summer. It's alleged that Ruffin shot and killed Johnson outside of his home on July 9th, 2023, after which he returned to the scene and posed as a grieving friend. I suppose on some level that explains this week's incident. You could say he had previous acting experience. Anyway, Ruffin is now facing a number of new charges in connection with this week's escape, including motor vehicle theft, aggravated escape, battery of an officer with intent to injure, and being a fugitive. He is also reportedly facing other charges for trying to sneak contraband back into the jail at the time that he was recaptured.
Representatives with California's Palo Alto police say they dealt with quite the bizarre vehicle theft case last week after a woman allegedly stole a delivery van full of packages, but her motive apparently had nothing to do with the merchandise inside. The whole thing started at around 3:30 p.m. on February 22nd when Palo Alto police received a call from an Amazon delivery driver. The man said that he had been completing his rounds in the 400 block of West Charleston Road when suddenly his van had been stolen. Specifically, the man said that while making a delivery to a house, he had momentarily hopped out of his gray Ford van, leaving the vehicle on and the keys in the ignition. He returned just in time to see a woman driving away, pulling a U-turn in the vehicle and heading south. He said the van was filled with undelivered packages. Thanks to tracking technology in the vehicle, police were quickly able to get on the phone with Amazon dispatchers who were able to provide them with the van's real-time location. Officers followed the stolen vehicle as it bizarrely headed to the parking lot of an Amazon facility in the city of San Jose. That's where they arrested the suspect, 36-year-old Elena Flores. All of the merchandise was apparently accounted for. Following her arrest, Flores claimed that she was never actually trying to steal anything. She said she, quote, just needed to get back to San Jose, and that was the reason she took the van. At the time of this recording, Flores is facing multiple charges, including felony vehicle theft and for committing a felony while out on bail.
A 20-year-old college student was reportedly left shaken and with a rather large dent to his bank account last week after he heroically came to the aid of a woman in the middle of an alleged domestic violence situation, only to find himself the target of the attacker instead. According to reports, the whole thing began at around 1:30 a.m. on February 20th, when 20-year-old San Diego University student Angelo Montoya was working his late-night gig as a driver for the food delivery app DoorDash. He was on his way to pick up his next order and had just gotten off the interstate in San Diego's Ocean Beach neighborhood when suddenly he was met with an alarming situation. A man and woman were clearly involved in some sort of violent altercation, and the woman was screaming out for help. Initially, Angelo reportedly tried to tell himself it was none of his business. However, his conscience apparently couldn't let him. That's when he turned around and went back to the scene to ask the woman if she needed help. She immediately said yes and begged for him not to leave. Though the 20-year-old initially thought that his presence would calm the situation down, unfortunately, this could not have been further from the truth. Instead, the male suspect allegedly turned his anger towards Angelo, at first yelling at him to mind his own business, and then trying to attack him when Angelo said he would not leave and was calling the police. After reportedly being punched in the neck, Angelo started dialing 911 on his phone and told the woman to get into his car. They then started driving away to try and get to safety. To Angelo's horror, though, the male suspect began chasing after them in his own vehicle. This apparently resulted in two more extremely dangerous encounters, one where the man cut them off and tried to get to him and the woman again, and a second in which he allegedly rammed Angelo's vehicle, causing it to smash into several other parked cars. Thankfully, however, he then finally left them alone. The male suspect was later arrested and charged with assault with a deadly weapon. While neither Angelo nor the female victim were seriously injured, the 20-year-old was briefly hospitalized after the incident. His prized Tesla, which he reportedly worked for years during high school to purchase, was also apparently left in rough shape. All the same, Angelo says he does not regret his actions and says he still thinks it's important to stand up for what's right, even when it comes at a personal cost. In the meantime, he has set up a GoFundMe to help assist with his legal and medical bills, as well as to help pay to fix his car.
Authorities in Walton County, Florida say that a 54-year-old man is in hot water this week following a months-long investigation that was reportedly initiated when he unwittingly offered illegal drugs to two police officers who were ironically in town to attend a narcotics conference. The whole thing apparently started in August of 2023 when two police officers from the Citrus County Sheriff's Office ordered an Uber in the community of Miramar Beach. The officers were heading to dinner at the time, but they were in town for the Florida Narcotics Officers Association annual conference. Little did they know, a bus was about to fall right into their laps. After picking up the officers, the suspect, 54-year-old John Alcott, apparently wasted no time in revealing that driving wasn't his only side gig. He also sold LSD and other hallucinogens, opening up his glove box to reveal a large quantity of magic mushrooms. He allegedly offered to sell some to the officers, who understandably declined. Once the ride was completed, the Citrus County officers passed the information about what had happened to their counterparts in Walton County. They proceeded to launch a months-long undercover operation in which they arranged increasingly large buys from Alcott, culminating in one last week for a quarter pound of mushrooms and 200 doses of LSD. When Alcott left his home with the drugs on February 21st, waiting police officers reportedly conducted a traffic stop. They arrested him on the previous undercover drug buys, as well as those that they found in his vehicle. At the time of this recording, the 54-year-old is facing multiple charges, including selling a hallucinogen, trafficking LSD, possessing a hallucinogen with distribution intent, possessing drug paraphernalia, and 2 counts of using a two-way communication device to commit a felony. Following the arrest, Walton County Sheriff Michael Atkinson pointed out that they don't usually consider cases like this a high priority. However, this one sort of fell in their lap. He went on to say of Alcott, quote, "He obviously makes it a habit to sell while driving an Uber, and that's pretty alarming considering how teenagers and young adults frequently use driving services in the area."
A 30-year-old Arizona woman is reportedly facing multiple serious charges this week following a strange and terrifying incident in which she allegedly assaulted and tried to run down a group of adolescents and young teens with her vehicle, believing that they were bullying her own children. The whole thing reportedly began at around 4 p.m. on February 27th when the suspect, 30-year-old Brandy Gotch, drove to West Green Park in the city of Peoria. Once there, she apparently saw a group of kids who she claims were throwing wood chips at her children. Upon recognizing these kids as the same ones that had allegedly been bullying her kids in school, she decided to confront them. It wasn't long before things spiraled out of control. When one of the young teen boys in the group called Gotch a slur, she reportedly grabbed him by the hair and started yanking his head back and forth. She then grabbed a large stick and allegedly began chasing one of the adolescents, with witnesses saying they heard her yell, quote, "I am going to kill you and run you over." The 30-year-old reportedly tried to deliver on this threat moments later when she got into her pickup truck and began driving recklessly through the park area. She allegedly headed straight for the group of kids who she believed were bullying her children, who began to run for their lives. Gotch then fled the scene, though apparently not before running over the ankle of one of the 12-year-old girls in that group. After police were called, Gotch was arrested at her home nearby. She reportedly admitted to most of what had happened, though apparently denied several key parts, including that she knew that she had hit anyone. She also claimed that her kids, who were apparently in her truck at the time of the incident, were safely secured. However, they apparently contradicted her version of events. Following the arrest, Gotch's husband gave an interview with local media where he claimed that everyone was, quote, "grossly blowing this out of proportion." He claimed that his wife never tried to run anyone over and instead placed the blame on his kid's school, saying, quote, "I feel that if the school would be held accountable for their actions and actually would tolerate a zero-tolerance bullying atmosphere, then this could have 100% been avoided." At the time of this recording, Gotch is facing a number of charges, including attempted murder and endangerment. She was booked into jail and was held on $250,000 cash-only bond.
Authorities in Jackson County, Missouri say that a 69-year-old man is facing murder charges this week after he allegedly killed 2 people and wounded at least 2 others in a shooting while being evicted from a property he used to own. The situation began at around 1 p.m. on February 29th when a 41-year-old civil process server named Drexel Mack traveled to a home on the 1100 block of North Elsie Smith Road in Independence. Mack was there to serve eviction papers to 69-year-old Larry Acree. Acree had bought the 9-acre plot of land and built a house on it back in 2005. However, the property was foreclosed upon after years of unpaid bills and taxes. It was sold to a new buyer in August of last year, though according to reports, Acree refused to move out. Following months of reported attempts to get the 69-year-old to leave the residence, Mack was apparently sent to the address to post a notice to vacate, which he did on February 23rd. He had returned that afternoon on February 29th, accompanied by 2 witnesses to officially carry out the eviction. Upon arriving at the address, Mack removed a padlock which had been used to lock a gate at the entrance to the property. He and the 2 witnesses then made their way to the front door, where they reportedly announced their presence multiple times but received no answer. Since this door was locked as well, Mack drilled out the lock. No sooner had he finished this and opened the door that he and the others were met with gunfire. According to reports, Mack was hit almost instantly and fell to the floor near the entryway. The 2 witnesses he was with ran for cover and called 911. When officers from the Independence Police Department arrived at the scene minutes later, they attempted to pull Mack to safety so that he could be taken to hospital. However, the officers were also shot at, 3 of whom were also hit. One of them, 35-year-old Cody Allen, was hit in the head. Finally, after additional backup arrived at the scene, police were able to make their way into the house and place the alleged shooter, Larry Ackrey, under arrest. Cody Allen and Drexel were rushed to hospitals, though sadly, they were both soon pronounced dead. The 2 other wounded officers received treatment as well, though thankfully they are expected to survive. At the time of this recording, Ackrey is facing multiple charges, including 2 counts of first-degree murder, first-degree assault for wounding a police officer, and 3 counts of armed criminal action.
Representatives from the Pennsylvania State Police say that a 52-year-old man is facing murder charges this week after he was accused of brutally killing a pregnant Amish woman in her own home. According to reports, the case began just before 12:30 p.m. on February 26th when police received a 911 call from a residence in Sparta Township. Dispatchers were told that a young mother had been found unresponsive and seriously injured inside of her farmhouse property on the 21,000 block of Fish Flats Road. When officers arrived, they found the victim, 23-year-old Rebecca Byler, lying on her back in the living room of the home. Sadly, nothing could be done, and Rebecca was quickly pronounced dead. It was clear from her injuries that she had been the victim of a homicide. Adding another layer of tragedy to the situation was the fact that the 23-year-old was 6 months pregnant, and the crime reportedly took place while Rebecca's 2 other young children were inside the house. Her husband, Andy, was the one who found her, along with a family friend, after they returned to the residence after running some errands. While the exact cause of Rebecca's death has not been released at the time of this recording, multiple sources have stated that she suffered lacerations to her neck, as well as a gunshot wound to the head. Following a 5-day-long investigation, Pennsylvania State Police announced that they had arrested a 52-year-old man named Sean Cranston in connection with the awful crime. Cranston was arrested on March 2nd outside a local Dollar General store and is now facing charges including criminal homicide of an unborn child, burglary, and criminal trespass. Though it's unclear exactly what evidence authorities currently have linking Cranston to the crime, it's been reported that the 52-year-old's vehicle was seen by family members of Rebecca's in the driveway of her home on the morning of the murder. As for the alleged motive behind the crime, so far nothing has been confirmed, nor has it been revealed how Cranston and Rebecca were connected. That being said, in an interview, the 52-year-old's foster daughter theorized that it might be a case of mistaken identity. The daughter, identified only as a woman in her 20s, told reporters that the family that used to live at Rebecca's property had adopted Cranston's grandson a few years earlier, and he wanted the boy back. However, as far as we can tell, police have not commented on this theory at this time. The situation is still developing. Before we wrap up, we'd like to take a second to give a huge shout out to everyone who has made it this far into the video. Seriously, thank you so much for watching. If you found today's upload interesting and informative, we'd be honored if you'd consider liking and subscribing, as well as hitting the notification bell and selecting all notifications to stay up to date with our latest releases. If you're looking for additional ways to help support the channel, we'd love to have you join us over on Patreon. Patrons get ad-free and early access to all of our content, as well as 4 additional stories per week for each of our Crimes of the Week and Crimes of the Week International videos. You can learn more at patreon.com/crimezone, where you'll also find some of the fine folks whose names are currently on screen. All that being said, we understand that not everyone has the means to support financially, and that's totally okay. We appreciate every like, sub, share, and comment that you send our way. Once again, thanks so much everyone, and take care.